Valentine's Day always arrived like a decision she hadn't been consulted on. Naomi stood in her bathroom doorway with the light on and the door open, staring at herself in the mirror without really seeing anything new. The apartment was quiet in that particular way it only ever was on holidays, too still, too aware of itself. Even the city outside sounded softened, as if everyone else had somewhere to be. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She didn't pick it up right way. She already knew what it would be. When she finally reached for it, the screen lit with pinks and reds and hearts that felt aggressively cheerful. Group chat. The girls a photo loaded first. 4 women she loved, pressed together in a restaurant booth, cheeks flushed, wine glasses raised. Someone had added a glittery heart sticker over the corner. Date night. Finally off the apps. Miss you, wish you were here. Naomi smiled automatically. The reflex was well practiced. She typed "you look beautiful" and hit send before she could think too hard about it. That part was true. They did look beautiful, loved, chosen. She set the phone face down. This wasn't new. That was the part that exhausted her. Every year she told herself it didn't matter. Every year she made other plans. Dinner with friends, extra hours at work, a movie night that felt intentional until it didn't. And every year somehow she still ended up here, alone in a quiet apartment, watching the world celebrate something she seemed perpetually adjacent to. It wasn't that she hadn't tried. She'd done the apps, the setups, the polite first dates that never quite went anywhere. She'd been someone's almost, someone's later, someone's not right now. She'd been the woman men dated between chapters, not the one they stayed with when the story settled. She wasn't heartbroken. She was tired. Naomi turned back to the mirror. She was already dressed, silk slipping easily over her body, the fabric cool against her skin. The dress wasn't dramatic. It didn't beg for attention. It fit because she'd chosen it, because it felt like her. She smoothed her hands down her sides, then stopped. "Why am I even doing this?" she asked the empty room. No one answered. She could stay home, pour a glass of wine, scroll until the night passed, wake up tomorrow relieved it was over. But she decided to go out. The private members club was full in that particular intimate way that made loneliness louder. Candlelight, low music, couples leaning into each other as if the rest of the room didn't exist. She caught fragments of conversations, plans, inside jokes, shared memories. Her phone buzzed once. Another group chat photo. Her girlfriends, all smiles, all paired off. Someone had added a heart emoji. Another had written "miss you." Naomi turned the phone face down. "I'm tired," she thought. Not sad, not angry, just tired of always being the one who went home alone on Valentine's Day. She wanted to feel like a woman who took up space, even if no one noticed. There was a flicker of interest in Park Jun-seo's eyes. No one approached him. People knew the consequences of stepping into his orbit uninvited. A single nod to the guard. Permission. Her pulse spiked. She stepped forward before fear could talk her out of it. Close enough to smell his cologne, subtle, expensive. Cedar mixed with danger, close enough to feel the heat of his body. She spoke quietly, so only he could hear her. "Be my Valentine just for 5 minutes." His expression was unreadable. Naomi's heart thundered. Before he could say no, she leaned down and kissed him, quick, decisive. For half a heartbeat nothing happened. She thought he would push her away, say no. Then his hand came up, firm and certain, gripping her waist and pulling her in as if he'd already decided the outcome. He kissed her back, slow, deep, unmistakably intentional, unrestrained, serious. The world narrowed to heat and control. She gasped softly as he shifted her, guiding her onto his lap without effort, his other arm anchoring her there like she belonged. His kiss deepened, unhurried, thorough, every second treated as deliberate, electric. When he finally broke away, it wasn't to release her. His mouth hovered near her ear as he spoke, voice low and even. 5 minutes. We do this properly. I don't do things halfway, he said. His thumb brushed her bottom lip, barely touching, gentle. It sent heat through her. She realized that people were watching, security had tightened, conversations had stalled. Somewhere across the room, someone leaned in to whisper. When he let her stand, his hands lingered just long enough to send a message no one in the room would miss. "You shouldn't have done that," he said quietly. Her voice shook despite herself. "You didn't stop me." A pause. Then, almost indulgent, "No," he said, "I didn't." His gaze lifted fully to hers for the first time. Dark, endless, Certain. And now, he added, standing, "You're not leaving alone." Naomi's heart slammed against her ribs. She'd asked for 5 minutes. She'd changed everything. That night, Naomi didn't sleep. Not because she wanted him, though that would have been easier to explain, but because her body hadn't caught up to the decision she'd made. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt it again, the certainty of his hand at her waist, the way the room had gone quiet around them, the knowledge that she'd crossed a line without knowing where it led. Morning light didn't soften it. Her apartment looked the same, clean, quiet, ordinary. She stood at the sink with a mug of coffee she wasn't drinking and told herself what she needed to hear. It was 5 minutes. A reckless moment. A story she'd tell herself later with a laugh. She went to work. That's when she noticed the car. Black. Parked across the street. Engine off. No driver in sight. She told herself it was nothing. Naomi had spilled coffee on herself twice before 10 a.m. Not a lot. Just enough to notice. She wiped at the front of her apron with a damp towel and told herself to breathe. The diner was busy in the quiet weekday way. Regulars, laptops open, conversations. She took a sip of champagne she didn't really want. Just one Valentine's Day where she wasn't alone. That was all she wanted. She let her gaze drift over the couples, irritation flickering beneath the longing. Why couldn't she have that? Just for 5 minutes. Why couldn't she be desired? Her gaze landed on him and stopped. He wasn't part of the room. The room adjusted around him. He sat several tables away, partially obscured by the curve of the club and the men positioned around him. Security. Not obvious but unmistakable once you saw it. Men who didn't drink, didn't laugh, didn't scan for pleasure. They scanned for threat. He hadn't looked up once. Broad shoulders under a black suit. Jacket open. Stillness that felt deliberate rather than relaxed. When he shifted, just slightly, she caught a glimpse of dark ink curving beneath the collar of his shirt. Something sharp, powerful, restrained. A dragon, maybe. She didn't know his face yet. She didn't need to. Power radiated from him in quiet, dangerous waves. Naomi just wanted to stop feeling invisible for once her heart started to race. This was stupid. Reckless. She stood and moved before she could talk herself out of it. She shouldn't be doing this. When she approached a man, he stepped in front of her. He looked her over, assessing. He didn't smile. "Excuse me, I need to speak with him." Naomi's voice was slightly stronger than expected, surprising herself. He's busy. Half finished. Normal life, moving forward whether she was ready or not. She should have felt relieved. Instead, her thoughts kept drifting back to low light and velvet seating, and the weight of a man's hand at her waist like it had always belonged there. Earth to Naomi. She looked up. Maya stood across from her at the service counter, eyebrow raised, coffee pot paused mid-pour. "You good?" Maya asked. "You've been staring into space for like 3 refills." Naomi blinked. "Yeah, sorry, just tired." Maya snorted. "Girl, it's Valentine's Day hangover tired, isn't it?" Naomi stilled. "What? You know." Maya grinned, leaning in conspiratorially. "The morning after glow, or the morning after regret. Which one we working with?" Naomi laughed despite herself. "Neither. That's what they all say." Maya topped off a mug and slid it onto a tray. "So, did you do anything last night? Or did you pull your usual watch Netflix and pretend it's just Tuesday move?" Naomi hesitated. She hadn't planned on telling anyone. But the words pressed at her chest, restless. "I went out," she said finally. Maya's eyes widened. "Shut up. You went out? To a members club," Naomi said, and immediately felt ridiculous. Maya's grin sharpened. "Okay. And I kissed someone." Maya froze. "I'm sorry, what?" Naomi lowered her voice. "I kissed a stranger." "A hot stranger?" Maya demanded. Naomi thought of dark eyes, unflinching attention, the way the room had rearranged itself around him. "Yes," she admitted, "very." Maya grabbed her arm. "Naomi, details, now." "There aren't details," Naomi said quickly. "It was just impulsive. 5 minutes, that's it." Maya studied her. "You don't do impulsive." "I know, so why him?" Naomi opened her mouth, closed it. "I was tired," she said instead. "Of being alone. Of always sitting out Valentine's Day like it didn't matter." Maya's expression softened. "Did he kiss you back?" Naomi swallowed. "Yes." "Like, politely?" Maya asked. "No," Naomi said, heat creeping up her neck. "Like it mattered." Maya let out a low whistle. Damn. Before Naomi could respond, the bell over the door chimed. Another table, another order, life insisting. She took the tray Maya handed her and turned away, then stopped. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. Once, she didn't look at it right, away. Her pulse ticked faster anyway. Everything okay? Maya asked, suddenly more serious. Naomi forced a smile. Yeah, probably. She stepped into the back hallway, the noise of the diner dulling behind her, and pulled out her phone. Unknown number. You should leave work now. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Who is this? The reply came instantly. Someone who doesn't want you walking home alone. Her pulse kicked. She didn't answer, but she did leave. Outside, the black car rolled to the curb. A man stepped out, immaculate and composed, hands visible. He smiled like this was all perfectly normal. Miss Carter, he said, our boss would like to see you. Her mouth went dry. I didn't give him my name. You didn't need to. The words landed with unsettling gentleness. I'm not being kidnapped, she said, more statement than question. No, the man replied. You're being invited. She hesitated, then nodded once. The car moved through the city with quiet efficiency, turning where traffic thinned, stopping where access was controlled. When they arrived, it wasn't a warehouse or some back alley cliché. It was a private residence, modern, elevated, impeccably discreet. He was waiting. Park Jun-seo stood near the window, jacket off now, shirt unbuttoned enough to see the tail of a dragon tattoo. The city stretched behind him, distant and obedient. He didn't turn when she entered. You shouldn't have ignored my message, he said calmly. You shouldn't have followed me, she replied. That earned her his attention. He turned, slowly. His gaze settled on her like a verdict, measured, unreadable, devastatingly focused. I didn't follow you, he said. I protected you. She crossed her arms. From what? From the attention you invited. There it was, the truth laid bare without apology. He gestured to the chair across from him. She didn't sit until he did first. You kissed me in public, he continued, in a room where appearances are currency. I didn't know who you were, she said. I know. His voice softened. Not with kindness, but precision. That's the problem. He explained it plainly. People had seen. Questions were already circulating. Who she was, why she mattered, whether she was leverage. Letting her disappear now would invite curiosity. Dangerous curiosity. So what, she said quietly. You keep me locked up? His mouth curved faintly, not a smile. No, he said. We make the assumption permanent. Her breath caught. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend. For a time, he corrected. In public, where it matters. And if I say no? He didn't answer immediately. If you say no, he said finally, I still protect you. Quietly. From a distance. But others won't stop wondering why. She studied him. This man who treated consequences like chess pieces, who spoke of danger the way other people spoke of weather. And if I say yes, then you stay where I can see you, he said, where no one mistakes your value. Her voice dropped. And the touching? A pause. Only what you allow, he said. But don't mistake restraint for disinterest. Heat curled low in her stomach. She stood, walked closer, stopped just within reach. I get rules too, she said. His gaze darkened. Of course you do. She lifted her chin. No lying to me, no using me as bait. And when this ends, I walk away clean. He considered her, truly considered her. Then he nodded, agreed. She exhaled slowly. When do we start? He stepped into her space, close enough for her to feel the promise in his restraint. Now, he said calmly. You walk into a room with me. Naomi's breath hitched at his proximity. There's a difference between being seen together and being believed. He loosened his cuffs, movements unhurried. When he rolled his sleeves, dark ink followed the line of muscle along his forearm, part of a dragon's body disappearing beneath crisp white fabric. The sight pulled her attention before she could stop herself. He noticed. You'll have to learn not to look like that, he said mildly. Her chin lifted. Like what? Like you're discovering me, he answered. People notice curiosity. She crossed her arms. So what am I supposed to look like? He stepped closer, certain. The distance between them shrank, not rushed, not aggressive, just enough for her to feel the gravity of him. His presence wasn't comforting, it was commanding. The kind that rearranged your instincts. Stand here, he said. She did. He circled her once, slow and deliberate, as if assessing alignment rather than her body. When he stopped behind her, she felt him before he touched her. "This is how close you stay in public," he said, his voice low near her ear, close enough to signal intimacy, not close enough to invite it. His hand came to her waist, firm, intentional, not tentative, not asking. Her breath caught. "Don't tense," he said quietly. "They'll see it." She forced herself to relax, letting her weight settle naturally. His approval wasn't verbal, but she felt the subtle shift in his touch. "Good," he said, his hand adjusted slightly, thumb pressing in just enough to anchor her. The contact was intimate in a way that made heat bloom under her skin. "And when someone approaches?" she asked, voice steadier than she felt. "I don't release you," he replied. "I pull you closer." He demonstrated, slow, controlled. Her back brushed his chest, the solid breadth of him unmistakable. The room seemed to narrow, air thickening between them. "This tells the room two things," he continued, "that you're protected, and that you're not available for interpretation." Her pulse thundered. "And if they still look?" she asked. His hand tightened, just slightly. "Then I let them," he said, "because it won't change the outcome." She swallowed. "Which is?" "That you're mine." The words landed heavy. He moved around her then, facing her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. His eyes were dark, unreadable, focused entirely on her face. "This part," he said, lifting his hand to her jaw but not touching yet, "is where most people fail." "Why?" she asked. "Because they try to perform affection," he said, "instead of inhabiting it." His fingers brushed her jaw, light, brief, controlled. "You don't reach for me in public," he continued. "You let me reach for you." Her voice dropped. "And in private?" A pause. "In private," he said quietly, "we don't pretend." The air between them went taut. His hand settled fully at her jaw now, thumb brushing once along her cheekbone. Not a caress. A test. "If I kiss you like this tomorrow," he said, leaning in just enough that she could feel his breath, "it needs to look inevitable." Her lips parted. "So this is still practice?" she whispered. His mouth curved faintly. "No," he said, "this is restraint." He stopped there, so close it hurt, and then stepped back. Deliberately. "That's enough for now," he said. "You'll remember the rest." Her heart was still racing when he turned away. She watched him go, body humming, understanding dawning. They didn't ease into the first public appearance. Jun Seo didn't believe in soft launches. Their first appearance together was that same night, an intimate charity dinner held upstairs in the club she'd kissed him in, the kind of event that looked harmless on paper and dangerous in practice. Naomi realized this as soon as the elevator doors opened and the room stilled in that subtle, collective way. Eyes turned. Calculations began. Jun Seo's hand settled at the small of her back, not guiding, not forcing, claiming. It was different from the night before. Then it had been heat and impulse. Now it was deliberate. "You don't have to perform," he murmured as they walked. "Just stay close." She tilted her head slightly. "That sounds like a performance." His mouth curved faintly. "You'll see." They moved through the room together, seamless. People approached him with measured smiles and careful words. No one questioned her presence. No one asked who she was. They already assumed. When introductions were made, he didn't say, "This is Naomi." He said, "This is with me." It was enough. She felt it in the way hands paused mid-gesture, in the way eyes slid from her face to his and back again. She wasn't decoration, she was context. At the table he seated her first, close. His knee brushed hers beneath the linen. Not accidental, never accidental. Conversation flowed around them, business, polite laughter, subtext thick enough to taste. When someone finally asked, too casually, how they'd met, Jun Seo answered without looking away from his glass. "Valentine's Day," he said. No elaboration. Naomi felt the ripple that caused. She kept her expression smooth, her posture relaxed. Inside, her pulse raced. This was what it meant to be visible. Later, as music softened and the room loosened, he leaned closer, his voice for her alone. "You're doing well." She glanced at him. "You sound surprised." "I am," he admitted. "Most people try too hard. And I'm not?" His gaze dropped to her mouth. "You don't need to." Heat curled low and slow. They danced once. No announcement. No spectacle. Just his hand at her waist, firm and steady, as if it belonged there, his other hand wrapped around hers warmly. He didn't lead aggressively. He simply assumed she'd follow. She did. It was intoxicating, the way the room gave them space, the way his attention never wavered, the way his restraint felt like pressure instead of distance. When it ended, he didn't let go right away. "Still comfortable?" he asked quietly. She swallowed, dangerously so. That earned her a look, dark, intent, good. After he didn't take her home, he took her to his. The car ride was silent, charged. The city slid past the windows, lights blurring like something unreal. His hand rested on the console between them, open, waiting. She placed hers there without comment. The penthouse was quiet, controlled, floor-to-ceiling glass framing the city like a promise. He poured her a drink, water for himself, rules. They stood near the windows, close enough to feel each other's heat without touching. "You can stay," he said, "or I'll have someone take you home." She looked at him. Really looked this time. The broad shoulders, the disciplined stillness, the faint glimpse of dark ink along his forearm when his sleeve shifted. The dragon didn't feel symbolic. It felt accurate. "I'll stay," she said. He nodded once. Nothing happened, not right away. They talked instead, about nothing important, about everything that was. He listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, it was precise, thoughtful, devastatingly present. When he finally touched her again, it was slow. Asking without words, a hand at her waist, a breath shared. "This is still pretend," she said softly. "For the room," he replied, "not for me." The kiss that followed was unhurried, deep, familiar already. He didn't take, he claimed with patience. And when they eventually parted, breathless, undone, he rested his forehead against hers and said, quietly, "We stop here tonight." Her breath caught. "Why?" "Because if I don't," he said, voice low and steady, "I won't stop." The honesty of it left her reeling. He walked her to the guest room himself, stopped at the door. "Good night, Naomi." She watched him leave, heart racing, body humming, mind dangerously clear. 5 minutes had turned into something with weight. And it was only the beginning. The first threat didn't come loudly. That was the mistake people always made. They assumed danger announced itself. In Junseo's world, it arrived quietly, wrapped in manners and implication. Naomi realized something was wrong when the driver took a different route. She didn't panic, she watched. The city curved away from familiar streets, the traffic thinning, the windows darkening. "You're not taking me home," she said calmly. The man in the front seat didn't answer. The car slowed, and stopped. Before Naomi could speak again, the door opened, then closed just as quickly. Junseo's voice cut through the space, controlled and cold. "Out. Now." The driver obeyed without a word. Her voice was steady. "For you or for me?" "For me," he said immediately. That honesty landed harder than any threat. She stepped closer, close enough to feel the heat he kept leashed. "You said no using me as bait." "I didn't," he replied. "I removed the board." Her breath caught. Silence stretched, thick, loaded. "Last night," she said softly, "you stopped." His gaze dropped to her mouth. "Because I didn't trust myself." "And tonight?" His hand came to her waist, slow, deliberate, asking without words. "Tonight," he said, voice low, "I trust you." She nodded once. That was all it took. He kissed her like a decision already made. Deep, controlled, unhurried. Not rushed by hunger but sharpened by it. His hands framed her hips, grounding her as if the world beyond the glass didn't exist. She felt the dragon beneath his sleeve when she slid her hand up his arm. Warm skin, coiled power. He inhaled sharply at the contact, restraint cracking just enough to let heat pour through. Junseo slid into the seat beside her, the air shifting instantly. The man with him took the wheel. His jaw was tight, eyes darker than she'd ever seen them. "What happened?" she asked. "Someone tested my perimeter," he said calmly. "They won't do it again." Her pulse spiked, but not with fear, with understanding. "So this is because of me. This is because of what you mean to me, and you stopped it." "Yes." She held his gaze. "Completely?" A pause. Then honestly, "Yes." The car moved again, this time with purpose. They didn't speak until they reached his penthouse. Inside, the door shut behind them with finality. Junseo didn't take off his jacket. He didn't pour a drink. He stood in front of her like a man who had reached the end of his restraint. "You're safe," he said. "But tonight changed things." He guided her back toward the bedroom without breaking the kiss. Every movement intentional, every touch earned. When he finally pulled away, his forehead rested against hers. "Tell me to stop," he said. She didn't. Instead, she kissed him again, slower this time, surer. What followed wasn't rushed or loud. It was heat layered over trust, touch building with patience, breath mingling, the world narrowing to skin and closeness, and the weight of being chosen fully. When it was over, when the storm settled into something quieter, she lay against him, his arm around her, the city glowing beneath them like it belonged to him, to them. "This was never part of the arrangement," she said softly. He pressed a kiss to her hair. "No. Are you going to regret it?" He didn't hesitate. No. She shifted, meeting his gaze. "What happens now?" His thumb traced a slow line along her shoulder. Possessive, protective. "Now," he said, "anyone who thought you were temporary learns they were wrong." Her chest tightened. "And me?" He looked at her with devastating clarity. "You," he said, "are staying. Not as an order, as a promise." By the time the city woke, the story had already decided how it would be told. Naomi felt it in the quiet, how the penthouse seemed less like a fortress and more like a place someone lived. Morning light slid across glass and steel. She lay still for a moment, listening to the calm after consequence. Jun Seo was awake. He stood by the window, shirt open, the dark curve of ink visible now in daylight, dragon scales catching the sun before disappearing beneath fabric again. He looked composed, as if the night before hadn't shifted anything. It had. He turned when he felt her move, not startled, attentive. "Coffee?" he asked. She smiled despite herself. "Please." They drank it together at the kitchen island, shoulders nearly touching, an easy silence settling between them. It wasn't domestic, it wasn't pretend, it was something steadier, two people acknowledging the same truth without rushing to define it. When her phone buzzed, he noticed. She checked the screen. A text from a friend. "Saw you last night. Who is he?" She didn't answer. Jun Seo set his cup down. "There will be questions today. From them," she said. "And from you," he replied gently. She met his gaze. "Are you going to ask me to keep playing a role?" He considered her, really considered her, then shook his head. "I'm going to ask you to choose," he said, in public. Her breath caught. "And if I choose wrong?" "There isn't a wrong," he said. "There's only visible and invisible." She nodded once. She'd spent enough Valentine's days invisible. The event that night was smaller than the charity dinner. Private, intentional. The kind of gathering where reputations were confirmed rather than made. He arrived with her. Not an arm offered out of politeness. His hand settled at her back with quiet certainty. People noticed. Conversations adjusted. The room understood. When someone approached with a smile sharpened by curiosity, Jun Seo didn't wait for the question. "This is Naomi," he said. "No qualifiers, no explanation. She's with me." The words carried weight. The reaction proved it. Later, when the music softened and the room relaxed, she felt the attention shift away from her. Not dismissive this time, but settled. Resolved. She leaned in, voice low. "You didn't have to say it like that." "I did," he replied, "because I don't revise claims." She laughed softly, surprised by the ease of it. "And now?" He turned toward her fully, crowd or no crowd, and held her gaze. Dark eyes, steady and unflinching. "Now you decide how this looks," he said. "Not because you're protected. Because you're chosen." The choice didn't feel dramatic. It felt honest. She slid her hand into his jacket, fingers resting against his chest, and kissed him. Slow this time, certain. The room stilled again, but she barely noticed. When she pulled back, she said simply, "I'm not leaving." Something in him settled, deep, final. "Good," he said, "because I don't let go of what I choose." Later, back at the penthouse, the city glowing beneath them like a promise kept, she stood at the window and thought of all the Valentine's days she'd survived by pretending not to care. This one had found her anyway. "You asked for 5 minutes," he said quietly behind her. She smiled. "I did." He wrapped an arm around her, firm and certain, drawing her back against him. "I'm going to need more time than that," he said. She tipped her head back to meet his gaze. "I figured." Outside, the city moved on. Inside, the future had already begun. A year later, Valentine's Day didn't feel heavy anymore. Naomi woke to soft light stretching across glass and marble, the city below humming like a living thing. She lay still for a moment, listening to the quiet rhythm of breathing beside her, the weight of an arm draped over her waist, familiar, steady, chosen. A year ago she would have counted the hours until the day was over. Now she smiled before she even opened her eyes. She slipped out of bed quietly and crossed the penthouse barefoot. Coffee waited on the counter, already poured. He remembered the way she liked it. He always did. She stood by the windows, watching the city wake, when arms wrapped around her from behind. Broad, unyielding, certain. "You're awake early," he murmured. She leaned back into him, couldn't sleep, thinking, remembering. His chin rested briefly at her shoulder. "Dangerous habit," she laughed softly. "Do you remember last year?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "You didn't hesitate at all," she added. "Not after the kiss. Not after everything that followed." "I don't hesitate when I know," he replied. That night, he took her back to the same private members club. Same low light, same velvet, same quiet power threading the air. But this time, there were no nerves. When they walked in together, the room accepted them without question. They left before midnight. Back at the penthouse, the city spread beneath them, lights stretching endlessly into the dark. Naomi slipped out of her heels and set them aside, still smiling at nothing in particular. "Why are you smiling?" he asked. "Because last year I didn't want to go home," she said, "and now I do." Something in his expression shifted. He reached for her hand and guided her toward the windows. "Last year," he said quietly, "you walked up to me without permission." She smiled. "You didn't stop me. You asked me for 5 minutes," he continued, eyes steady on hers. "You changed my life in less than that." Her breath caught. He released her hand just long enough to reach into the pocket of his jacket. When he looked back at her, there was no audience in his gaze. No performance. Only certainty. "Last year," he said, voice low, controlled entirely for her, "you asked for 5 minutes. A beat." "This year," he said, stepping closer, "I'm asking for forever." He opened his hand. The ring was simple, exquisite, chosen with the same precision he brought to everything else. Her eyes glistened. She didn't hesitate. She nodded once, breathless. "Yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, his touch steady, reverent. Then he pulled her into him, one hand firm at her back, the other cradling her face as he kissed her slow, and sure a year ago she'd been tired of being alone. Now, she was never going to be again. If you enjoyed this story, you're in the right place. Here at Neon Obsidian Audio, nothing starts safely, and nothing ends by accident. 5 minutes was all she asked for. Forever was what she got. Until next time, stay dangerous.